Little Hands, Big Attitude, Book 1, Chapter 2. We have a guest. Sonic had been dashing down the stairs from the attic the second Donut Lord and Wade had pulled up into the driveway. Old habits die hard, and he happened to be engaging in one particular habit when the phone had rung. Eavesdropping. He had heard his dad say something about finding a baby at the farm, a hedgehog baby, just like him. To say he was excited to meet this new member of the household was an understatement. He managed to keep his excitement contained, but not enough that Knuckles and Tails didn't notice and wonder what secrets he was hiding. Then, 15 minutes passed were the longest 15 minutes in Sonic's life, or at least that's how he felt. Finally, the car pulled up and Wade climbed out of the driver's seat. And after a moment, Tom climbed out of the passenger seat, his flannel jacket bundled up in one arm. Sonic rushed down the stairs to the hallway looking as his mom took the bundle from her husband, both looking down at what was wrapped in it. He came up, bouncing up and down on his toes.
Can I see?
All right, but be gentle.
He reached up and tucked the fabric back just a bit, his eyes lighting up. The little hedgehog was absolutely tiny, almost small enough to fit in his hand. Sleek black fur, with small powdered blue flecks, and the brightest green eyes like his own. The baby looked just as surprised to see Sonic, eyes wide and toothless mouth open.
Oh my gosh, look at him.
He wanted to hold him, but he restrained himself. He needed to be patient.
What is it, Sonic?
The hedgehog looked as two brothers came downstairs after him, and then they saw the baby.
Aww.
Knuckles wasn't usually one to drop his tough act, especially around his family, but even he seemed absorbed into the tiny guest's presence.
He is quite small.
Yeah, and young. I don't think he's much older than a few days old.
Maddie stood up straight again as the baby fussed, walking towards the kitchen.
I have some formula that we usually use for abandoned kittens and puppies. Let's hope he takes it. He's probably starving.
She held the baby in one arm while preparing the tiny bottle with the other, occasionally asking Sonic to hold something still while she scooped out some of the formula or twist the top onto the bottle. After a moment of shaking, she held the nipple towards the baby's mouth. The baby seemed to be having trouble figuring out how to latch onto the bottle and how to suck the formula through the nipple. But once he did, it was for dear life.
My goodness, you were hungry.
Looks like we've got another little furry guest in the house.
Can we keep him? Can I name him?
Hey, why do you get to name him?
Because I was here first. Seniority rules.
But I am older than you. Wouldn't that mean I get to choose the name?
What? No way?
We'll worry about naming him once we figured out where he came from and if he's staying with us. I like to hope that his mom is out there somewhere looking for him.
Right. The last thing we want to do is keep this little guy from his mommy.
The baby looked up at Maddie with wide eyes, his little clawed hands scraping at the plastic bottle. Maddie gave a smile but hoped she herself wouldn't form a bond with him. It would make it even harder to let him go.
Can I help you pick out stuff for him then? Please?
Tom patted the hedgehog on the head.
Slow down there, Sonic. He's only been here for 5 minutes.
You say that about everything, Dad?
This isn't something we can just rush into, Sonic. Taking care of a newborn baby is a lot more work than it is to take care of you with Tails and Knuckles. He can't do all of the stuff to take care of himself like you can.
You wanted me to be more responsible. Remember, I can totally prove my responsibleness by helping with the baby.
Yes, and the responsibility also means being patient and waiting for the adults to make a decision, especially on something as big as this.
Knuckles stepped forward, putting a hand on the hedgehog's shoulder.
Our father figure is correct. A warrior must wait for the right moment to strike, or else put others at risk, even if they think their moment is now.
Sonic groaned but didn't argue further. He walked back over to his mom, peeking over at the baby.
Don't worry, you will be safe with us. We won't let anything happen to you.
Feeding was not something I was used to. I had been an immortal god of time, a being of pure energy that does not need food, and the lack of a month in my split form, well, that complicated things. When the woman had held out the bottle to me, I wasn't sure if I even needed it, much less how to drink it from it. But this new form must have also come with new instincts, because as soon as it touched my lips, I was latched onto it like a leech. This seemed to please the woman as she smiled as I sucked down the substance. It had an odd taste to it, but I didn't care. The officer came around saying something to his wife. I then heard Sonic and his two friends arguing about something. I was still trying to wrap my head around that. My initial look at the hedgehog had been brief, but enough for me to see he was a little different than the one I'd previously encountered. For one, he was younger, at least by comparison. His voice was that of a child, his mannerisms youthful and innocent. If he had seen Bowers like the other Sonic had, it wasn't as frequent or as intense. His friends all seemed younger, though not quite as much. As the man also joined in the argument and it shifted from between the three children to between the man and Sonic, I saw a lot of hand motions towards me. They must be discussing how long I would be there. Why couldn't I understand them? I know hundreds of languages and dialects from being immortal and experiencing all of time. I had watched languages adapt and change, some even conquered and practically wiped out by invading forces. I couldn't even determine the general area of which this language had originated. Then it occurred to me, perhaps this wasn't a matter of it being a new language, but rather that this new form had erased my knowledge of an existing one. The scientists at the lab had mentioned grooves in the brain that deepened as we grew older and learned new things. Was this what had happened? Had these grooves in my own mind been raised when I was placed in a younger, less developed body? I would have to relearn everything. I only had my own memories of my own experiences to suggest I was ever sober before now. My attention was caught by Sonic once more as the hedgehog approached. He looked at me, our eyes locking on one another. He murmured something to me, but even if I didn't understand the words coming from his mouth, his expression told me a lot. He was trying to reassure me, and then he took my hand in his own and squeezed it gently with a smile. He didn't hate me. He liked me at least. I suppose there were worse places to hide for now, at least until I can figure this place out.
Tom knew that they had everything they were going to need for the first night, but they'd run out of formula eventually, and there were other things they would need to buy for the next few days. He sat down at the table, a pencil and paper in hand, to make a list. Tails came up to him on one side and Sonic on the other to watch.
Okay, I'm making a list of what we need to get for the baby from the store, among other groceries. Any ideas, boys?
Okay, we'll need a bed, a blanket, milk, socks.
All of this stuff is so boring. We know he needs that stuff. Hey Dad, why don't we get a race car bed for him just like mine? Oh, and toys? I can find him some toys.
Ease up there, Speedy. We need to be methodical about this. Now, Tails is right. We need a blanket and milk, socks to keep his feet warm. I don't know if we'll be able to find little gloves his size just yet, but we also need diapers.
Okay, bottles? We'll need more than one so we always have a clean one handy. And a race car bed.
We'll worry about an actual bed later, Sonic. We already have a cradle for the time being.
We do?
Yep, it was my old cradle and it's been safely packed away for me and Maddie's first kid. Of course, you were too big for it by the time you actually moved in with us.
We're gonna use your baby bed. It's ancient by now, probably half eaten by termites.
I wouldn't consider it ancient.
I agree with our father. If this infant is to be part of our family, it is only right that one of his first gifts from us is a Wachowski family heirloom.
Well said, Knuckles.
Maddie replied from the living room. The baby had finished off his bottle and was sleeping now, closely snuggled against her arm.
Gee, baby sure do sleep a lot.
Well, all that looking around, seeing new things, and eating takes a lot out of you when you're that size. Now come on, give me more things for the list.
The list was completed eventually, and then Tom offered to take Tails and Sonic with him to the store. Knuckles insisted on remaining home to assist Maddie with anything she needed, since she'd be spending most of the time tending to the baby. Sonic was jealous at first that Knuckles got to stay home with the baby, but was convinced when Tom told him and Tails that each of them to pick one toy out for him. The trio piled into the truck and rolled out off into town, leaving Maddie alone in a musty, quiet house. Maddie leaned back on the couch, looking down at the tiny hedgehog in her arms that barely weighed anything. Were they always this lame? Or was he underweight for his age? How old even was he? How did he wind up all alone in a barn stall, shivering in the cold? She shifted just a bit against the armrest, getting her right arm free. She gently ran one finger over his quills and on his head, feeling its soft, silky texture. The baby's nose twitched in his sleeps, his little claws kneading into the fabric of the borrowed flannel.
How did this happen? How did I get 4 babies in my house in the span of a year?
Sonic had adopted them long before they returned the favor, though she wasn't exactly sure how long he'd been spying on them. Sonic didn't talk much about his life before that fateful day Tom tranquilized him in the garage, only that he had been sent to Earth to protect him when he was younger, and for whatever reason, he'd chosen her and Tom to be his new family, even if they didn't know he was there. What he'd been sent away to protect him from had been a mystery until Tails and Knuckles arrived, and they weren't even home for that bit. Tails never mentioned his parents, and Knuckles only spoke of his father, who had been lost in the war between his tribe and the tribe of Sonic's former guardian, Longclaws. 2 young boys found themselves pit against each other by grudges of their ancestors, but in the end forming a friendship that was manifested into something stronger. A brotherhood between them and Tails. Maddie looked back down at the baby. He would have no prior grudges, no troubled past of bullying and war. He could grow up in a loving home with loving parents and siblings. Maddie chuckled a little.
So much for not getting attached.